Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into the religious landscape of medieval India,
Oh, yeah.
from about the 7th to the 17th century CE.
Okay.
We've got a ton of sources here.
Wow.
Historical texts, scholarly articles, even some personal notes.
Okay.
But before we get into all that,
Yeah.
hit that subscribe button and the bell icon
Yeah.
so you don't miss out on future deep dives.
Okay.
Now, whether you're a UPSC aspirant prepping for exams or just curious about India's crazy religious diversity,
Right.
this deep dive is for you.
All
We're
right.
talking about devotion, mysticism, social change.
It's really fascinating.
It's medieval India in a nutshell.
Yeah, what's so captivating about this era is how dynamic it is.
Totally.
It's not just names and dates.
Right.
Empires crumbled, regional kingdoms popped up,
Uh-huh.
and ideas flowed like a river along trade routes, like the Silk Road.
Oh, wow.
So like a Buddhist text from China could
Yeah.
end up in a market in South India,
Huh.
and that could spark totally new interpretations of faith.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's the kind of exchange we're talking about.
So, okay, we've got the Gupta Empire fading away, leaving kind of a power vacuum.
Right.
What fills that void?
Well, picture this, a mosaic of regional kingdoms,
Yeah.
each one with its own patrons of Buddhism, Jainism, or Hinduism.
Interesting.
Practices flourished in specific areas,
Mhm.
so you get these unique regional flavors of each faith.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Then, as we move towards the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire,
Okay.
things start to centralize.
Mhm.
And that had a huge impact on how Islam spread
Yeah.
and how it interacted with the religions already in India.
It seems like we're already seeing how politics and religion are intertwined,
Absolutely.
but I'm guessing it wasn't just kings and queens, right?
Oh, definitely not.
What about everyday people?
So imagine bustling cities along the Silk Road,
Okay.
traders from all over sharing stories, philosophies,
Yeah.
even religious ideas.
Mm-hmm.
The arrival of Islam, for example, is closely tied to this trade network.
Uh-huh.
And within Indian society, the caste system played a huge role too.
Okay.
The Bhakti movement, which we'll talk about more,
Mhm.
emerges as a response to that rigid social hierarchy.
Oh, I see.
It was a call for spiritual equality,
Interesting.
a way to connect with the divine no matter your caste.
So it's like this era was a pressure cooker,
Yeah,
right for new religious movements to pop up.
right.
You mentioned the Bhakti movement.
Mm-hmm.
We hear that term a lot,
Uh-huh.
but what does it really mean?
At its core, the Bhakti movement is about devotion,
Okay.
a personal, heartfelt connection with the divine. It's about rejecting empty rituals,
Yeah.
the idea that only priests can connect you with God. The movement has roots in ancient Vedic texts,
Okay.
but it really took off in South India
Interesting.
with the Nayanars and Alvars.
And who are they?
These were poet saints
Oh, wow.
who poured their love for Shiva and Vishnu into these beautiful hymns.
So instead of elaborate ceremonies, it's about a personal form of worship.
Right.
That's a big shift.
It is.
Why did the Bhakti movement appeal to so many people?
There are a few reasons.
Okay.
First, imagine growing dissatisfaction with Hindu rituals
Okay.
and the power of the priests.
Mhm.
People wanted a more direct experience of the divine,
Right.
and Bhakti gave them that.
I see.
Second, the movement drew inspiration from Buddhism and Jainism.
Interesting.
They emphasized compassion, which resonated with people
Yeah.
who wanted a gentler, more inclusive spiritual path.
I can see how that would appeal to people from different backgrounds,
Absolutely.
especially during times of change.
Right.
Were there other factors at play?
Oh, yeah.
Like what?
Imagine political turmoil, invasions, kingdoms collapsing.
Wow.
It created a sense of unease,
Mm-hmm.
a longing for stability.
Mm-hmm.
The Bhakti movement offered a refuge,
Interesting.
a way to find meaning amidst the chaos.
So it makes sense that it became popular during such a turbulent time. It's fascinating how upheaval can lead to spiritual seeking.
It is.
Before we dive deeper into Bhakti,
Okay.
could you give us a quick recap
Sure.
of what we've covered so far?
The Bhakti movement emerges in this changing landscape.
Hmm.
It offers a personal and emotional approach to faith.
Okay.
Remember, it emphasizes love and devotion
Right.
over rituals and social hierarchies.
Uh-huh.
And importantly, it's not monolithic.
Okay.
There are various schools of thought within Bhakti.
So different ways of understanding the divine.
Exactly.
That's a great recap.
Thanks.
Now, I'm curious about those different schools of thought.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a distinction between Nirguna and Saguna Bhakti, right?
Yes, and that difference is key.
Okay.
Especially for anyone studying medieval Indian history.
Right.
Nirguna Bhakti focuses on a formless God.
Oh, wait.
No attributes.
A bit abstract.
It can be.
Yeah.
Saguna Bhakti is about a god with specific forms and attributes.
Like Vishnu or Shiva.
Exactly.
So even within this movement about personal devotion, there are different ways of seeing the divine.
Precisely.
This is where it gets interesting.
It does.
These different approaches led to all these subsects and traditions.
A beautiful array.
I can't wait to explore those.
Me too.
But first, let's take a moment to digest everything we've learned so far
Sounds good.
about this pivotal movement in Indian history.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll unravel the fascinating branches of the Bhakti movement
Right.
and delve into the Virashaiva Lingayat tradition
Okay.
and the practices of the Nathpanthis, Siddhas, and Yogis.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were right in the heart of the Bhakti movement.
Yeah.
Personal devotion, different schools of thought. Now let's zoom in on some specific branches that came out of all this.
Right.
I'm really intrigued by the Virashaiva Lingayat movement.
Oh, yeah. That's a fascinating one.
It sounds like they really shook things up.
They did. They challenged the status quo.
For sure.
Yeah.
And for UPSC aspirants, this movement is key to understanding this period.
Absolutely.
So tell me more.
Okay, so the Virashaiva Lingayat movement was led by this philosopher Basavana back in the 12th century.
Right.
And they were a powerful force for social change.
Wow.
They started in Karnataka, and they totally rejected the caste system.
Really?
Yeah, they were against rituals and idol worship, too.
So they were going against a lot of deeply rooted traditions.
Oh, yeah. Imagine a society so set in its ways.
Right.
And then this movement comes along,
Yeah.
challenging everything.
Bold move.
Oh.
It was,
What did they believe in?
well, at the core was a deep reverence for Shiva.
Okay.
And they represented Shiva with the linga.
The linga?
Yeah, it's a symbol.
Okay.
And they wore it on their bodies.
Oh, wow.
They were all about equality, everyone being equal no matter their caste or social standing,
I see.
simplicity, devotion to Shiva,
Yeah.
uplifting the marginalized.
Yeah, so their beliefs were really reflected in their actions. They were.
And they believed in a direct path to Shiva.
Right.
No priests, no elaborate rituals. It's like they wanted to make faith accessible to everyone,
Exactly.
stripping away all the barriers.
Yeah.
Now let's switch gears a bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Nathpanthis, Siddhas, and Yogis.
Oh, those are always interesting.
They seem so mysterious.
They do, don't they?
What can you tell us about these traditions?
Well, they were all interconnected, and they were all searching for spiritual enlightenment and mastery over, well, everything, the physical and spiritual realms.
So like superpowers.
Kind of, but more about inner power. They shared some common beliefs, like wanting to escape the cycle of birth and death. Exactly.
But they each had their own unique traits.
Right. So the Nathpanthis, they were big on yoga and tantra.
Oh, wow.
Intense practices to control the body and mind.
Serious self-discipline.
For sure. And secret knowledge, too.
So almost like spiritual athletes.
Yeah. Yeah, pushing their limits.
What about the Siddhas?
They were a fascinating bunch.
I bet.
They wanted to reach spiritual perfection, and they often claimed to have supernatural abilities.
Like what?
Alchemy, healing, things like that.
So they were more like mystics.
Yeah, they wanted to transcend ordinary human experience.
Okay, and the Yogis?
The yogis focused on integrating practices, physical, mental, and spiritual, all to reach self-realization.
Isis.
Yoga, meditation, breath control.
Yeah, those were key.
And their practices are still around today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yoga's everywhere.
Exactly. It's had a lasting impact.
It's amazing how all these different approaches existed together.
It is. It's part of what makes this period so fascinating.
We can't forget about Sufism, though.
Right. Sufism is a major force.
It came to India during this time.
Yeah, and it marked a turning point.
How so?
Well, Sufism is often called the mystical dimension of Islam.
Okay.
And like the Bhakti movement, it emphasizes a direct personal experience with the divine.
So different traditions.
Yeah.
But similar approaches to spirituality.
Exactly.
What were the main things that drew people to Sufism?
Well, Sufis stressed divine love, rejecting material possessions, and a deep inward focus. They practiced tatik. Yeah, it's the remembrance of God through chanting and repetition.
Oh, I see.
And they also had sama.
What's that?
It's spiritual music.
Oh, wow.
Designed to uplift the soul.
So it's all about connecting with the divine through the heart.
Exactly.
Not just the intellect.
Right.
I could see how that would resonate in India.
Especially with the Bhakti movement already happening.
It wasn't like Sufism just appeared overnight, though, right?
No, it was a gradual process.
Yeah.
It started around the 11th century with Sufi saints and mystics traveling from Central Asia and Persia.
So it was a cultural exchange.
Exactly.
A blending of traditions.
Right. India has a long history of that.
Yeah, absorbing and adapting. Do you have any examples of this fusion?
Sure. A lot of Sufi saints adopted local languages, Hindi and Urdu, to spread their message.
That makes sense.
They also integrated Indian music and poetry into their practices.
So it was this unique blend of expression.
Yeah, a beautiful example of cultural exchange enriching religious practices.
It sounds like Sufism really became part of Indian society.
It did.
It wasn't just about language, though, right?
No, there were other key features.
What were they?
Well, we talked about devotion and love for God, but they also emphasized the importance of a spiritual guide. A peer.
A peer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone to guide disciples on their spiritual journey.
Interesting.
And Sufis believed in a structured path to spiritual progress.
So like steps to follow?
Yeah, stages of self-discipline, inner cleansing, and ultimately union with the divine.
It sounds very systematic.
It was a roadmap for spiritual growth.
So they valued personal experience, but also guidance from a teacher?
Exactly.
Anything else?
Yeah, they stressed inner purification through practices like dhikr.
Right, we talked about that.
And muraqabah.
What's muraqabah?
It's a form of meditation.
Okay.
And they really emphasized cultivating virtues. Humility, tolerance, brotherhood.
So living ethically.
Yeah, true spirituality in action.
Those values are still relevant today.
They are.
Now, what about the Sufi orders that emerged in India?
Oh, yeah. The silsilas.
Silsilas.
Okay.
They were lineages of teachers and disciples, each with their own practices and beliefs.
Interesting.
Some of the big ones were the Chishti Surawardi Naqshbandi Qadri.
Wow, so many.
And the Ferdowsi Silsilas.
Each one with its own distinct character.
Exactly.
Adding to the diversity of Sufism.
It's incredible.
So within Sufism,
yes,
we see this branching out of traditions.
Right.
It's a really dynamic path.
It is.
But did they all fall under the same Islamic beliefs?
Well, that's a great question.
I'm curious about how they balanced spiritual practice with religious doctrine. So all Sufi orders were rooted in Islamic beliefs. But there were different views on how practice related to Islamic law.
I see.
Some orders were called Bashara. Yeah, they strictly followed Sharia.
Islamic law.
Right. Yeah. Others were Bashara. They had a more liberal interpretation.
Interesting.
They emphasized the inner spirit over rituals.
So even within Sufism, there was a spectrum of views on spiritual experience and doctrine.
It shows how dynamic Sufism was, especially in the diverse landscape of medieval India.
Now let's shift to another major religious movement that emerged during this era. Sikhism.
Sikhism.
In the 15th century.
It's another pivotal moment in Indian religious history.
Guru Nanak's teachings.
Yeah.
They offered a new perspective on spirituality.
They did.
A universal God, equality for all. And his message really resonated.
It did.
Leading to this distinct religious community.
With its own identity and practices.
Are you ready to delve into Sikhism?
Absolutely. Let's explore Guru Nanak's teachings. And see what sets Sikhism apart.
Yeah, this is important for UPSC aspirants, too.
It is.
Sikhism played a big role in shaping medieval India.
Socially and politically.
I'm excited to learn more.
Me too.
About how this faith took root and flourished.
In this already diverse religious landscape.
So we were talking about Guru Nanak's teachings offering a fresh perspective.
Right, a new way of looking at things.
But what were those core principles?
What made Sikhism different?
Yeah, I think for anyone trying to understand Sikhism, this is where it all clicks.
Okay, so at the heart of Sikhism is the belief in one formless God. Kind of like the Nirguna Bhakti tradition.
Oh, right, we talked about that.
Guru Nanak rejected idol worship rituals.
Yeah.
The caste system.
It was all about equality.
Absolutely, everyone is equal.
No matter their background.
Exactly.
So like the Bhakti movement, Sikhism challenged the social norms. It's interesting how social reform is woven into these teachings.
It's a common thread.
What else did Guru Nanak preach?
So imagine a faith that's not just about spiritual growth, but also about ethical living and being active in society.
Interesting.
Guru Nanak stressed honesty, hard work, sharing your wealth with those in need.
Seva.
Exactly. Seva became central to Sikhism.
And those values are still so strong in the Sikh community today.
They are. It's really inspiring.
Speaking of Guru Nanak, he was the founder.
Right.
But there were other Sikh gurus too, right?
You got it. There were 10 in total.
Wow, 10.
Each one contributed to the faith.
In what way?
They provided spiritual guidance.
Okay.
But they also shaped the community's identity.
Socially and politically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how each guru built on the teachings of the one before.
So Sikhism evolved over time.
It did.
So it wasn't just about individual progress.
Right.
It was about building a community.
A strong, unified community.
Were there any specific things that helped solidify the community?
Absolutely. The Gurdwara and the Langar.
Oh yeah, we hear about those.
They're prime examples of community building.
In what way?
The Gurdwara is a place of worship.
Okay.
Gathering community service.
So it's more than just a place to pray?
It is. It's a place where people come together.
I see.
To sing hymns, share meals, support each other.
That's beautiful.
And then there's the Langar.
The communal kitchen?
Yeah, where everyone is welcome to eat.
No matter who they are.
Exactly. It's all about breaking down barriers.
And what about the 5Ks?
Oh, yeah, the 5Ks.
Those are so iconic.
They're practically synonymous with Sikh identity.
They represent a commitment to the faith.
Right.
Let's recap them quickly.
Okay, so first we have Kish.
Uncut hair.
Yeah, symbolizing spirituality.
And Kanga.
The wooden comb.
For cleanliness and discipline.
Right. Then Kara.
The steel bracelet.
Strength and unity with God.
Kachera.
The undergarment.
Self-respect, moral living.
And finally, in Kirpan,
the ceremonial dagger.
Courage and defending the weak.
It's amazing how each symbol has such deep meaning.
It's profound.
Connecting outward appearance to inner values.
Exactly.
We've covered so much ground today.
We have.
All these religious movements in medieval India.
It's been a journey.
Before we wrap up,
I
want to talk about the impact of these movements.
Yeah, they definitely left their mark on India.
They must have. What kind of transformations did we see?
Well, both the Bhakti and Sikh movements really challenged the caste system and promoted equality.
Right.
They emphasized the dignity of every human being.
Regardless of their background.
Exactly like the Langar. It's a symbol of that egalitarian spirit.
It shows how religious principles can lead to real social change.
Absolutely.
What about the impact on culture and the arts?
Oh, there's a huge impact there, too.
Like what?
These movements sparked a cultural and literary renaissance.
Wow.
Think about Tulsidas's Ramcharitmanas in Hindi. It's a masterpiece inspired by the Bhakti movement or Kabir's poetry.
Oh, yeah.
Blending Hindi and Urdu to spread a message of love and unity.
Beautiful.
And of course, the Guru Granth Sahib.
Right. The Sikh scriptures.
In Punjabi.
So these movements didn't just transform beliefs.
Right.
They inspired art and literature.
They shaped Indian culture.
Did they have any political influence?
They did, though, indirectly.
How so?
Their focus on tolerance, unity, social justice.
Yeah.
It all influenced the political climate.
Interesting.
Rulers like Akbar embraced this inclusivity.
Right.
He tried to bridge religious divides.
With the Din Ilahi.
Exactly, blending different religious ideas.
It didn't last, though.
No, but it shows the spirit of the time.
Yeah, a time of dialogue and fluid boundaries.
Precisely.
We also can't forget about the religious syncretism.
The blending of traditions.
Right. Did that have a lasting impact?
Oh, definitely. The interaction between Sufism and Bhakti led to this beautiful fusion. Like at the Ajmer Sharif Dargah.
Oh, wow.
Revered by both Hindus and Muslims.
That's amazing.
It shows the potential for unity.
Yeah, transcending religious labels.
Exactly.
This has been an incredible journey.
It has.
Through the religious landscape of medieval India.
So much diversity.
Any final thoughts?
Well, we've seen that this era was a melting pot of ideas, beliefs, practices. It all enriched Indian spirituality.
It did.
But what's amazing is how the principles from these movements, equality, compassion, seva,
they're still relevant today.
They are timeless values.
That's a great point.
So as you think about this history, consider how these values can help us understand India today.
With all its religious diversity.
Right. Maybe they can even inspire us to build bridges between faiths.
That's a beautiful thought.
I think so.
And to everyone who joined us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Into religious movements in medieval India.
It was fun.
Thank you for being here.
We appreciate you.
We encourage you to keep exploring.
Yeah, keep learning. Maybe delve deeper into a movement that caught your interest.
There's there's so much to discover.
Until next time, keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.